Hi everyone, my name is Devin and I'm doing my project on phishing scams. So, common consumer fraud are phishing scams. What is a phishing scam? Consumer fraud involves deceitful practices like identity theft, phishing, fake charities, and investment scams, often using tactics such as false advertising, high pressure sales, or selling counterfeit slash defective goods. These are all designed to really trick you into giving up money or personal information through online, phone, or in person schemes. Um, with consumer fraud, unfortunately, we do see a lot of older people tend to fall for these tricks, and unfortunately, it's due to the lack of knowledge about technology and from personal experience. My grandparents call me every weekend to ask me about random suspicious emails, and the best I can tell them is don't click any links or attachments. Yeah, so a phishing scam is a type of cyber attack where criminals use deceptive communication like emails, texts, calls, or social media messages, and they use these to trick victims into revealing sensitive personal or financial information, or to install malicious software onto your devices. Scammers impersonate trusted entities like banks, government agencies, or even colleagues to create a false sense of security or urgency. So, phishing scams are very common nowadays, especially with the use of technologies. A very big one that I see personally is emails and texts. And lately, there has been a certain phishing scam linked to UPS packages, and everybody they would send out a link saying your package has been misplaced. Please click here to confirm the address and stuff like that. And by doing this, they have you enter your personal information, and you're really giving that away to these people who want to use that and either sell it for their own profit or create harmful ways to get into financial information and stuff. So some common phishing scam traits that are commonly seen are sense of urgency or threats. So these messages will be like, "Hey, you need to click here to make sure your package gets delivered to the right address in a timely manner." They'll threaten you with stuff like um, they'll threaten you with warrants for your arrest, package security. Maybe they'll say something like, if you don't act now, your subscriptions will be canceled or accounts deactivated, stuff like that. So they're just trying to get you to react based off emotion. Um, Nothing more common stuff are requests for personal information. So of course they want to know your address, where you live, your full name, of course, they might want to know stuff like social security numbers, other private information. So whenever you hear stuff like that, you should be more on edge and weary about that. Personally, this year earlier in October, I was doing my taxes and I needed help, some assistance with it because I couldn't figure it out. I submitted it 17 times and it came back rejected every single time. So I was getting text messages that said something about click this link, call this number, for help with your taxes. And it was from the TurboTax. The text said it was from TurboTax and stuff like that. So what had happened was I had called this number, and basically, when I was reviewing my information, they hopped on the phone call. They asked me for basic stuff. I gave my name, stuff like that, and it got to a point where the guy asked to share my screen with him, and I was already feeling kind of sketchy, very weary, and on my toes about this whole situation. My friend was right next to me doing his own homework, and we both were looking up the number that I called, and when he looked up the number, the first thing that came up was a TurboTax website that said avoid phishing scams or other scams. And that just put me on edge. I immediately hung up after I didn't give him a code to share my screen. I thought that'd be a little too dangerous, messing with fire. So I decided not to proceed with that. So, you just want to be mindful what you're doing, give where you're giving your information. Um, and then another common trait is generic greetings. Usually, these emails or text messages they go "Hey customer" or to our um yeah stuff like "Hey customer," to whom it may concern, stuff that's very generic. They're trying to get you to get the information. Um, Recently, when I was up at 2 a.m. scrolling on TikTok, I saw that there's a new kind of trend going around where people deliver packages to your house and they don't say who they're from and they leave an Amazon QR code that looks just like one that you would get from an Amazon Prime shipping box. And when you scan that QR code, it takes you to a link where you enter personal information. So when you go to see, oh, who sent me this package, it's really a phishing scam. It's pretty interesting. And then more stuff is like suspicious links, attachments. I always tell my grandparents, hey, if you get texts or emails, don't always open the link. Um, you don't want to really click on stuff. I tell my friends personally, don't send me links if because I'm not gonna sit there and click them, even if I know like, hey, it might be a TikTok. I'm still very weird. And then there's always like mismatched domains or spelling errors. And for an example, I have one of these. It's a common student email. I have I get these pretty frequently, and right away you can see that from the top. It says, "Caution: This email was sent from my CSCLB student account. Job offers, exclusive free items, or reports of account problems are not legitimate. When you see this warning, you can forward suspicious emails to CSCLB." And the very first thing they talk about is earning $480 a week. So this is how they get your attention. They want you to see that and go, "Oh, look at the money." They're trying to draw interest. And then it talks about a job that might be appealing to the eye, flexible scheduling. It talks about competitive earnings, and conveniency. And of course, there's your link. So these kind of show a lot of the traits of a phishing scam, and not. It's also funny because the red caution label is literally telling you to be cautious of it. I get these pretty frequently on my student email. This we don't know, but this probably is a sign of phishing. And of course, they want you to click the link. They were trying to appeal to your emotions, seeing the money at the very beginning. So yeah. So what can you do when you get targeted or fall victim? The main point is to immediately change any passwords that could be compromised. Remember, you're not supposed to click links. Don't open any attachments. You can verify the source by looking up the company's website online and finding their own personal email and numbers, and just making sure. Um, Most companies will never actually reach out for you and ask for personal information. They say that on every website. Almost every company does that. You can always report the phishing attempts to anti-phishing agencies or like work groups, and or go to the FTC. Um, some important stuff is maybe to run a scan for your computer software for malware. Maybe you downloaded something and it's hidden somewhere within your computer. And then you can always contact banks and credit card companies for potential fraud. They'll freeze your account, they'll review some stuff like that, and just in case, maybe if it does happen in the future, and you didn't know right away, they can help you out. And then just to leave you off with something interesting, there was a TV show that I've seen recently. It's called Scam Getting Even, and basically it's these two YouTubers who are actually like setting up to meet with scammers, finding scammers, and in a way scamming them back and getting even. And I think it's pretty funny to watch. Um, I've seen some of the clips, and apparently they met this guy. They had somebody pretend to be an elder guy, and they drew someone out to a park to, get their help and give their information, and then they ended up tackling the guy. So I think it was a funny show to go along with this. All right, thank you guys.